Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening for everyone tuning in to this piece today. Where we will actually be discussing the intricacies of AI in relation to Saudi Arabia, which is all very, very exciting and actually very, very new worldwide. So, this is one of the first. By way of introduction, my name is Natalie and I lead on the HR portfolio here at Informa Connect. And with me today, I have the very esteemed Dr. Gopal. Not sure if you wanted to do a little quick intro for yourself, Dr. Gopal.
Thank you, Nat. So I'm Gopal Kutwaru. I'm a AI and digital transformation consultant and trainer. And I come from a history of technology and telecoms, leading various functions at Microsoft, Dell, Siemens, Cisco, NCR, Lego, Nokia, brackets, not my fault, and a number of organizations I now work with to help them think about artificial intelligence and how it affects various functions inside organizations, whether you are sales and marketing, whether you're HR, whether you're finance, or whether you are the C-suite as well. So I do a lot of work in the Middle East area and also worldwide in the US and in Europe and parts of APAC.
Amazing. Brilliant. And I guess just to segue into our discussion today, I'd love to sort of start off just by asking, really, why is AI so feared or borderline disliked?
That's a great question. In fact, it's a question I get quite often, and I think the reasons for the fear is largely because it's also the unknown a little bit at the moment, because we're not quite sure of how extensive AI is going to kind of start affecting companies, start affecting functions, start affecting people. So there is a fear around the unknown a little bit here, I think. I think the second area where there is a challenge is it's automating so many of these functions right now that people are quite rightly worried about, do they have a job? Do they not have a job? Or indeed, what is their role in the new world when it comes to AI? And that, for many organizations, is yet to be defined. So I think that is part of the fear there. And once you start looking at the various applications in AI, irrespective of the function you're in, we're starting to see AI applications very, very sophisticated, doing a number of, very, very data intensive, time hungry kind of tasks, and really making it so easy nowadays to do some of these things as well. So I think I would break down those kind of reasons for fear around those three areas, if I'm honest.
Amazing. And I mean, you sort of briefly touched upon it, but what are the main reasons as to why we should embrace AI instead of fear it?
Yeah, and my message to everybody out there is, I've been in the telecoms and technology and software industry for, what I would say best part of about 28 years. And what I would say is we really need to embrace it, because many of the technologies that we can think about today that we've introduced into our businesses has been, game changing in many respects. I mean, you think about, what Word and what Office and what Excel did on the Microsoft side. And that productivity software is now all being morphed into various co-pilots. So, the ability to do so much more is incredible today. I mean, it really is kind of, I would say fairly mind-boggling in terms of what you can do. But I believe you need to embrace it. I think there will always be change. We're in the middle of the fourth industrial revolution. If you think we started off in the age of steam, then we went into, industry, we went into, computerization, the age of computers and the internet. And now we're seeing, the growth of artificial intelligence as a part of our everyday lives, really. So both at work and at home. So, it affects us in the workplace. It also will affect our children, because, of course, they're coming from an environment where the teachers increasingly are building curriculums on AI. And also the generation alphas of this world are also using AI pretty much every day. So, I think we really need to embrace it. I think another part of this is, not to fear it, but I would say that embracing it means looking at your strategy first of all. Don't look at AI, look at your strategy, because AI is an enabler. It will enable you to do things. It's not going to replace your strategy. Your strategy is your strategy at an organizational or a corporate or a government level. You have a vision and mission you want to achieve. And then with that, you're going to work through, well, what's the best way of doing this? There are some things I'm going to want to automate, and there are places where, AI are really important for you to be able to do that. It makes no sense for humans to do stuff in some areas anymore, and leaving it to AI. We've got to really embrace it. Really, we've got to think about what do we want to start doing as a department, as a function, as a division of our organizations, and how can we achieve our vision and mission either quicker, faster, or more ambitiously even. So I think we can look at those things and determine that. So I think first of all, I think you've got to embrace it in the sense of your strategy first of all, and then kind of build your AI strategy around that vision and that strategy. I've had a number of years where, I've been pushing technology onto organizations, whether it's ERP, supply chain, whether it's HR, whether it's finance functions, whether it's sales and marketing. And I think we've just got to embrace the great that comes with AI, but we have to be balanced. It's not all there. It's still embryonic, even though the technology has been around since the 50s. We started to unpack it as consumers about a couple of years ago when ChatGPT came through, and now you have many generational AI applications. You've got hundreds and thousands actually of AI applications now that can do various things. So there is a decision to be made about when you start with AI. Also communicating why it's important and why it will make a difference, and to run, when we think about implementation, what is the cost benefit analysis for using artificial intelligence vis-a-vis what we're doing today as humans, and then really building out a roadmap that doesn't put it all together in one place at the beginning, over time, and a really good roadmap underpinned by agile methodologies. We can achieve this AI infrastructure, so to speak, that can help us come together and build fantastic things moving forward.
Brilliant. And, sort of more specifically to Saudi Arabia, you mentioned there are a few case studies to which AI has been applied within the industry, such as, Microsoft co-pilots that are going on and so on and so forth. What have you seen in Saudi Arabia that's really, really effective in terms of AI being implemented within HR teams?
Yeah, so if we think about within Saudi Arabia, I mean, it's a fantastic, extremely progressive economy, and of course, I've always thought Saudi Arabia embraced technology really, really well, but they really think about it really well in the sense of what benefit is it to the organization, and what can we really do with it. So I think there's a very disciplined approach to the way Saudi Arabian enterprises as well as public sector also embraces this as well. So what have I seen? Well, I see some really smart use of HR when it comes to everything from recruitment, talent recruitment, that being done more efficiently. There are some great applications out there. There are things like Manatal as well, which is like an all-in-one platform for recruitment. We're also seeing talent development, talent applications, which are helping to identify skill gaps in organizations, right the way through to, how best do we need to create tailored learning career pathways, really. So I'm seeing that level of adoption in HR on the talent development side. So we're starting to see an awful lot of development there, and again, some wonderful applications that are coming through. Right the way to onboarding employees. So, again, employee onboarding AI as well, where the whole onboarding experience can be created and developed with AI, and then it needs some manifestation in some augmentation in terms of people, doing certain intros to certain functions, or welcoming the employee into the new organization and who to meet and things like that as part of the onboarding journey, as well as how does that function operate. So explaining what you do and how you do it being explained to new employees as well. So I think onboarding is fantastic. That's growing a lot. When we think about going back to L&D and talent development, we're looking at where to identify the talent, what skill gaps do we have as well, and utilizing really advanced applications, things like knowledge graphs. And what does that mean? Of which, organizations like NASA and, those kind of organizations are looking at knowledge graphs. As if you don't know what that is, it basically is looking at the jobs of today, the jobs of tomorrow, and how do we build future skill sets to start building people into those roles, really. So, we're looking at things like that. We're seeing AI develop there. And also as well, when I think about the overall employee experience, what can we expect from an organization by way of training programs, development programs, a lot of that, some really smart stuff being adopted by Saudi Arabian firms in terms of LMS platforms, learning management systems, therefore, that are driven by artificial intelligence, also tailored, customized programs that are, part human, but also part AI being embraced as well. So the training programs, the development portfolio, they're being adopted by talent development teams or L&D teams. We're seeing some real changes there as well. So I see in the Saudi Arabian market that we're touching all the different elements of HR there as well. The other one to include, of course, is performance management. And we're starting to see, AI being able to take a look at not only have you completed the task, but also as well sentiment analysis, which is another AI application that looks at, Nat may have completed 5 jobs this week and fantastic on her. Her productivity has gone through the roof. But is she happy? Because at the end of the day, she might have done a load of stuff and she's just really tired and really burnt out and things like that. So we need to make sure that Nat is positioned for success in the future and doesn't burn out after a few weeks by showing tremendous productivity, but unfortunately not as much happiness. Now, of course, you can detect things like that. AI can also be used to detect how happy Nat is on a weekly basis to determine whether she's a flight risk or not in 6 months' time, because she might be completing 45, 50 tasks, but is she being led and managed in the right way? And of course, these are great tools for line managers, directors, and vice presidents, and wherever you are in that hierarchy, to manage your people as well, really effectively as well, and to coach them and develop them in the right ways, and to recognize the signs of where you see, there potentially is, fantastic opportunity for growth and development. But also as well, I fundamentally believe that AI can also be used for mental health and well-being. So as part of the total mix of the employee value proposition, I do think that, when I think about Saudi Arabia, I'm looking at, a country that's a very progressive about not only getting things done, but getting things done in the right way.
For sure. And, those that might be listening right now might think, oh gosh, that's a lot of different functions being taken away from current teams. Does that mean that, there's going to be loads of jobs at risk? Do you have any stats around that which may actually combat that sort of negative mindset towards AI at current?
I think that's a great question. And I think we need to be balanced, but it's also asking a question of the leadership in any organization, whether you're public sector or whether you are, in enterprise, or you have an SMB business that you're running. Yes, there is a threat to jobs. I think about, depends on which forum you heard it for last, but, they're saying that 90 million jobs may be lost by 2030, something like that. And, depending on what you're reading, you may see a variety. You may see 60 million, you may see 70 million, but, the latest I've got is around 90. But what they don't tell you is that 140 million jobs will be created. Now, that is net 50 million up ish. And of course, we have to think that what's being created then if jobs are being lost? Well, it's the reality that functions are transforming. We need human beings to do, without sounding robotic myself, we need human beings to make sure that, we're adding value in however we need to do it. Otherwise, what will happen is we've been, extremely progressive in the worldwide economy, just going from each industrial revolution. We're on the fourth industrial revolution right now, which is the advent of AI. And of course, we don't want to be people who are still doing the abacus when the calculator has been invented, right? So the question is, this is going to mean a fundamental redefine of functions and transforming these functions. And therefore, yes, it is a concern. And, it's never great if you're facing a potential, job loss or redundancy down to technology. The reality is it's been reality for years and years and years and years. And that's what the technology sector does. And that's part of the value add it adds to different functions, depending on your definition of value add. So I see that there will be more jobs being created. I see jobs being redefined. I see roles that are, they're going to be more under threat because, you've got fantastic AI applications that take care of it. They need stewardship. They need human oversight. So you need that, artificial intelligence is broken down into artificial intelligence itself, but that leads to machine learning. And what machine learning are we creating? The algorithms that we're creating in large language models. And of course, let's not forget the advent of deep learning, which basically takes it to another level. And this is where, humans or other machines mimic the human mind, so the human brain even. So, these are deep neural networks. Now things get really funky at that point. This is where algorithms and things like that program each other, machines program each other. Humans are not needed in that process because it's inferior to what machines can create. So the question is why would you need a human to do these things? Now, of course, there's a whole bunch of questions that come with that, both of a societal, a moral, and those kind of things. So I think there is some things that we have to think about. I think there is going to be a relentless march of AI. I do think we have to be balanced in how we do that. I think the job scene is one of those things. It's not just jobs, but processes. Think about the fundamental fabric that runs our organizations today: people, processes, technology. We're achieving a for-profit goal, or we're achieving a revenue goal, top line, or we're achieving some societal benefit or something for our citizens. In which case, are we doing that efficiently? And if we're not doing it efficiently or productively, then what else can we do? And that's where AI steps in and starts taking the conversation a little bit further into how you can be more productive and efficient. If I had to ask everybody, would you prefer the abacus or a calculator? I'm pretty sure what the answer would be there. But it's so much more than that. The predictive analytics that you can have with AI is just frankly quite amazing, really. So, it does a whole load of different things. So I think it's a great question. I would look at it as organizational renewal. I would see it as we have to redefine, and a lot of people talk about it. I think a lot of organizations, they're very good at talking about these things. If you put action next to those words, you don't always see them, right? And it says like, yeah, you know what, we're going to join the bandwagon. We're going to get an AI app. We'll spin that up and off we go. And there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, but that doesn't really happen, really. So we have to start thinking about, are we really serious about transformation? Are we really serious about change? Are we really serious about reinvention? Because you know what, if you don't embrace it, it's up to you. But then the risk you run is not taking advantage of the opportunity, and you become a victim of opportunity cost. And what I mean by that, very simply, is if you're not doing it, you can bet your competitors are going to be doing it. And if you don't have competitors in the traditional sense of the word, any adjacent industry that is muscling into your turf, they're going to be looking at it. They're going to be doing it. The world has got a lot smaller with AI, a lot smaller with AI. And I think not only is it jobs, it's functions, it's processes, all these things that need to be redefined. We're working today. In the late 1890s, we were developing a if you like, an infrastructure that was fit for farmers in a lot of ways in the 1890s. So what we ended up doing was we ended up just doing the same old thing over and over again. But nowadays we don't actually live in that world anymore. We live in a world where we're now having to be adaptable. We're having to be resilient. We're having to be agile. We're having to be all these things. And that wasn't called for back in the 1890s. We had to do the same old thing every single day using the same old machinery. And that was the farming industry, which is what 3/4 of the world were doing in the 1890s. Today, we're sending spaceships into different places, outside the planet. Of course, we are doing all sorts of wonderful things with finance to predict things like cash flow in the next kind of year or 2 years. We're looking at HR and really trying to find how do we find the best individuals to suit specific roles. We're looking at sales and marketing to build our campaigns, which can be very integrated and can be developed, and content management in AI is out of this world. And you have to think, those kind of things were never needed before, but they're needed now. So the question is how do we build a future that is kind of fit really for our strategy, and then figure out where does AI play, and then where does humans play in this new world. I see a kind of symbiosis between human and AI. I think that there is a coexistence, but in some things it makes sense to go AI all the way. In some things it makes sense to go human all the way. In some senses, the safest way for society to move forward, I guess, at the moment is human plus human plus human oversight, AI plus human oversight. I think that's the one that will the modality that I think will probably start moving forward.
And just with this idea of, company renewal, where should Saudi-based companies be focusing their energies when it comes to upskilling and reskilling staff to really make sure that, essentially they can basically move department, or they won't basically just be cut off from the company. They can be transferred to a more tech forward department within the organization. Where should these employees really be focusing when it comes to reskilling? What area of digital literacy will be most successful?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think the first thing is, I fundamentally think that every single employee needs to be data literate. And what I mean by that is we've got some real gaps in how data literate people are. This is everyone from, people being able to analyze an Excel spreadsheet right the way through to think about, data visualization, data storytelling. What do I do with data? We live in an AI world. AI needs data. So, the first skill set is really, I think, for organizations to embrace data literacy. For me, if I had a choice, every single company and every single employee would go through a kind of basic view of data literacy. This is the data you have about your function. This is the data you have about the value you could add with this data and other sorts of data across the organization, and learn how you can be better at insights and decision making as a result of that. So I think the first thing is data literacy, especially when you're coming to things like reskilling. I think the second area is every function will have 3 levels of AI applications that they can consider. Number one is what I call generational AI. We've got to make sure that everyone understands the basic generative AI chatbots that exist. If you don't know Microsoft Copilot, if you don't know Claude, if you don't know Gemini, if you don't know ChatGPT, you need to go and learn. You don't need to learn a great deal. You just need to play with it, right? And just to see what it can do. And that would be the first thing. The second thing is you're going to have vertical specific AI applications. So in finance, for example, you've got Fathom AI, which can do some really clever data scenario planning based on data. For those that are using Power BI and things like that, Data Rails is a company that is using data to predict and model future scenarios. Really clever, really clever things in there. That's the second level, so I'll call that vertical specific AI. And I think the third thing is what I call more holistic platform knowledge as well. So I think every employee would kind of be in the middle of this actually, but this is where HR AI integrates with finance AI, integrates with sales and marketing AI, integrates with any kind of central office AI, integrates with any back office AI, and you have these holistic platforms. Now, when I was vice president at Sage, we saw that we were creating something called Sage Business Cloud, and you're going to see organized. Microsoft is doing it with Copilot, and what I mean by that is that increasingly you're seeing the integration of AI software between all these different functions. And that's what I'm calling platform AI. So I think that whereas one person in an organization who is in one department, you may be in L&D, for instance, or you might be in HR, that's fine. You've got the other two levels that I've just mentioned that can help you with various things, writing policy documents, writing job descriptions, creating a career development pathway, creating all sorts of onboarding plans, all that kind of stuff. But when you get into this third layer, this is where now it's probably more for maybe more of a senior audience or a C-level audience. How are you going to tie all these things together? Because there are thousands of applications at the end of the day. So you want to be able to do that. So going back to your question there, I think that, what we need to do is start thinking that at a level, we need to have data literacy. We need to know about these Gen AI platforms and play with them. We need to know about these vertical specific AI applications that can give you a lot of value. But also as know we need to be balanced, because there are ethical questions and things like that that do come up as part of AI. I think in every new technology, we've ever released or the world ever releases, there's always a question around that. We've got a rapid pace of technology uptake. I mean, nowadays, if I go back a little bit, it took 20 years for the internet, right, to get to 1 billion users. It took 7 years for mobile phones to reach 1 billion users. It took about 18 months for AI to get to 1 billion users. 18 months. Imagine what the next 18 months is going to do. There's 7 billion people on the planet, right? Not all of them are conversant with a computer yet. They may be babies, but you know where I am. So yeah, I think that's something that we need to think about. And I think fundamentally we need to, I think every single function needs to have a very clear learning agenda on AI. And that could be anything from a few days to a few weeks. I don't actually think this thing is going to take years. In fact, to be honest with you, I'll be a bit worried if any programs are more than a year, because it's going to be outdated after about 3 months. So, I think we can do some really great stuff very quickly to make sure that the majority of us are in a place where we understand the value of these platforms, and more fundamentally know what applications exist. If you go to g2.com or if you go to Capterra, those are two organizations that act a little bit like the TripAdvisor of software. So if you want to know HR AI apps, if you want to know finance AI apps, sales AI apps, marketing AI apps, or platform apps that combine all these different functions together, payroll, all that kind of stuff, ERP, whatever, just go onto these platforms, because pretty much you've got reviews. I see these platforms growing over time. And also I think there'll probably be some contraction in the industry, because whereas, like anything, there is great growth and lots of organizations getting behind these different AI applications. There's going to be quite a few casualties and M&As that are going to happen as part of the natural course of the economy. You can't have necessarily too many businesses there. So there will be some consolidation.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Gopal. We have touched the very tip of the iceberg of what is a very, very bulky topic. For everyone out there listening, Dr. Gopal is actually going to be continuing this topic, as well as diving much deeper into other related AI topics at the AI Focus Day taking place in, Saudi Arabia as part of the Talent World conference. So please do drop either of us a message if you're keen to join us and learn even more about AI than you have done today. But thank you so much for joining, and Gopal, as always, you've been brilliant. So thank you so much for sharing your wealth of knowledge, and I'm sure you'll have multiple reach outs off the back of this to really further understand some of the things that we've discussed today. So
Pleasure.
thank you very much.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Brilliant. Take care. I hope everyone has a brilliant rest of the day.